Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Krishna, Krishna Krishna. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। श्री गुरु महाराज की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Yashamati from Chicago once again, welcoming all of you to the mid-morning japa session. I thank all of you for attending this session and giving your beautiful association. Please forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. Let us move to our next part of the session, which is Sri Archa Vigraha Series. The topic of miracles and reciprocation of deities in various temples, part 2. So, and may I know who are joining this call?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams, our glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharajas and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirti Dasundri Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Kirti Dasundri Devi Dasi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining and your beautiful services. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Yashumati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas College Station.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining and your services. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Neetu Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining and giving your beautiful association every day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Yasamati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam to you and all Vaishnava. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Gopika Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining every day. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Yashwamati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karuna Devidasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna, Indulekha Karuna Devidasi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining and giving your beautiful services. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody else who would like to introduce?
Yashumati Mataji, I'm Sundari Leela. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru and Gauranga, and all glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for your wonderful service. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining. Hare Krishna. So, before we dive today in the session, I would like to read His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada's quote. Krishna, he is the Lord, but he has nothing to do. He is simply enjoying with his friends, with Radharani, with cowherd boys, with gopis. He has nothing to think how to provide chakals. That is greatness. He is talking the cows as a Spartan. And when he was called for killing Kansa, he left everything, renounced everything in full. So much love. At once, in a moment, he left Vrindavan and all these devotees. They began to cry for Krishna for the rest of life. And whenever Krishna was reminded, oh, he will say, I am very soon coming. Don't worry, I am very soon coming. Boston, April 27, 1969. So once again, welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa Group. Today we are so fortunate to have His Grace Jayananda Gauranga Das Prabhuji on the topic of miracles and reciprocation of deities in various temples, part 2. So Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you very much. Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for giving your very valuable time and association to us this morning and enlightening us on this topic. Now I hand over call to you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Dandvat Pranam. Thank you for inviting me for this seminar series. Thank you to Preeti Vilasini Mataji for asking me to do this thing. And then thank you to Vinita Gandharvika Mataji for getting this shared. This is the second seminar in this series on miracles and reciprocations of the deities in various temples. We did the first one last week. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet nashta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavate sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki om ajnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalagaya chakshurum meelitam yena tasmai shri guruve namaha Vancha kalpaturbhyascha kripa sindubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhattavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I offer my humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas assembled here. So this seminar series is a 4-part seminar series. The first part was the temples of North and Northwest India, and we did that last Friday. And this session is supposed to be on Friday. The only exception is this week, which we are doing it on a Thursday because of the lecture tomorrow for observing Sita Navami. And last week we had this seminar on temples of North and Northwest India. And in case any of you have not been there for it, the YouTube link is it has been already uploaded on YouTube. So, and today we are going to do predominantly temples of East India, but at the last I will do 2 temples in Andhra Pradesh. Seminar 3, which will be next week, will be entirely for temples of South India. And seminar 4, I will cover temples that I've missed in all the other 3 series from different parts and also outside India. So today we are going to, this is the second seminar, and we are going to start with East India, the first temple where, and as I had mentioned last time, we are, most of the temples, I'm not just going to be doing the history of the temple, but it's mainly the reciprocation of the devotees which have been recorded and documented, and those are the pastimes that we are going to be doing. But in some temples, if the pastimes are a lot, then I might restrict myself to about the deity and about the temples. So in the East India, we're going to start with the Jagannath temple. And the first incident that I'm going to speak about is in 1790 AD, and these are incidents related to a devotee called Dasya Bori. And this devotee sang many hymns, Dasya. He sang many hymns to Lord Jagannath, and he was in a village called as Baligram, and it's about 30 miles away from the Jagannath temple. And when he was, he had a wife, but he did not have any children. He at that time belonged to a sect where he was not allowed inside the Jagannath temple. And therefore, he wanted to give some coconuts, to offer them coconuts to the Jagannath deity. And so he asked the village leader and gave him the coconut and told him, please offer this to Lord Jagannath and please return to me if the Lord does not accept it. And this was a very peculiar request. And the village leader also went to the Jagannath temple, and he almost even forgot about this devotee Dasya. And after some time, after praying, and he gave the offerings of many other offerings to Lord Jagannath. And at the end, suddenly he remembered about this coconut, and then he raised his hand up to offer the coconut to Lord Jagannath. And when the village leader raised the hands, suddenly his hands froze, and he felt that the coconut slipped from his grasp, and then the coconut disappeared miraculously. And then the coconut shells fell all over, and then it was just all strewn all over the altar. And the village leader and the priest of the temple, they were all just stunned how the deity accepted this Dasya Bori's offering. And another time, he envisioned, when he came to the Lord Jagannath temple, and since he was not allowed inside, he envisioned the image of Lord Jagannath on the Nila Chakra and offered a basket, sorry for the spelling here, a basket of mangoes. And when he offered it, the mango suddenly disappeared and from the basket. And there were a set of priests who were just walking by. And then when they saw this, that the mangoes was offered by this person, and then that they disappeared, and they wanted to quickly check what was happening, and they ran into the temple. And once they ran into the temple, and then when they went into the altar, they saw a number of the mango skin strewn all over the altar. So in this way, Lord Jagannath, there are many, many incidents with Lord Jagannath, and it's not just one or two. There are so many incidents. And Lord Jagannath has interacted with the devotees in different ways. And I'm going to give only a few examples here. And there is the next example, which I'm going to take, is again a documented incident. And this incident happened in 1392. And these are incidents related to a devotee called as Bandhu Mohanty. And this devotee, again, was not of the Brahmana class. And this devotee, he was telling for a long time to his wife, he had wife and children, and to his wife that he was friends with a rich person, and the name of the person was Jagannath. But he never revealed to his wife that whom he was talking about was Lord Jagannatha himself, because he was just not, he just didn't think his wife would think high of that, and then he just let it go. And then, but then he described about how rich his friend is and how opulent his friend is, and so on. And in this way, as time proceeded, there was a time when they were facing very impoverished conditions. They were very poverty stricken, and in a very and in that year 1392, the harvest was not good, and they barely had any food to eat, and the children were famished, and very difficult situation. At that time, his wife told him, wife suggested to him, can you please approach your rich friend and ask him for some help? And this Bandhu Mohanty, he just ignored his wife's request. He just didn't think it was appropriate for him to go ask Lord Jagannath about it. But then after some time, they decided, his wife convinced him, should we need to go meet your friend? And then they walked all the way to Puri. And in Puri, they were taking, it was night time, and they were taking shelter in a nearby place. And even at that time, Bandhu Mohanty did not tell his wife that the friend whom he was talking about is actually the deity of the temple and not actually a human friend, like what she had thought that friend to be. And but then the night was, and then they were just sleeping on in a shed right just next in the streets there, in the next near the temple. At that time, the wife was very hungry. The children had barely eaten. They didn't have any money to eat, and they just didn't know. But then Bandhu Mohanty just slept. But then the children were like in a very difficult situation, not eating at all. And then at that time, suddenly a dark colored person appeared there, and he had a gold plate with a variety of food items in it. And then he came to his wife, and then Mohanty's, this devotee Mohanty's wife, and told that this was given by the friend of your husband, and the friend of your husband is very rich. He has a big palatial house, and therefore please accept this and give it to the children and have them fed, and you will be received in the morning, and then directly by the friend. And then the friend gave the gold plate, and the wife did not know what to do, whether to accept it or not, but they were so hungry, and they didn't, and he even mentioned that it was the friend of the husband, so she just took it. And Bandhu Mohanty, he was sleeping, and she didn't want to disturb him. She thought it would be very rude to disturb him, and then she just accepted the gold tray. So the dark, okay, at night, and then she accepted the gold tray, and she immediately fed the children first, and then she also ate, and she kept a little bit whatever was left over for the husband. The next day morning, when her husband got up and she told this, he immediately realized that it was Lord Jagannatha who had come. And since Lord Jagannatha had come, and then he felt that his wife was so fortunate that she got the darshan of Lord Jagannatha, whereas he could not get it. And then he took the remnants of the food, what the children and wife, they all ate, and then he ate it, and then he felt so happy. Suddenly there was a lot of commotion in the temple, because in the Lord Jagannath's altar, there was a gold tray that went missing. And it was immediately told to the king there, and his name was Veera Kishora. And this king Veera Kishore, he immediately found out that they sent a squad, police squad, all over to find where the gold tray is. And then they found that Bandhu Mohanty was having it. And then they immediately called him, and then they had a sentence. They're going to give a sentence for him, a punishment. And then Bandhu Mohanty kept explaining to them that it was not, but it was not an easy explanation to give, because who would believe that the Lord had come and given a gold tray? And so they thought that he stole it. And that night, in the dream of the king Veerakishora, Lord Jagannath said that if some important guest for you comes, and then you give some food to him, would you punish the person who's giving it? And I am the person who went and gave this gold tray to Bandhu Mohanty, and so if you're going to punish him, you got to punish me. And then the king was stunned by this, and then he went and told the temple priest all this. And from then on, the first service, food offering service, was offered to Bandhu Mohanty and his family lineage. Even today, it's very surprising that out of 500 priests in the temple, the only non-Brahmana offering is offered by the Bandhu Mohanty family. And even now, there are people with this last name of Mohanty in the Puri temple and they do the first offering to Lord Jagannath. So beyond this, of course, our Lord Chaitanya himself stayed there for a number of years, and many pastimes have been recorded with Lord Jagannath in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in one instance, when the chariot, the left panel here shows when the chariot did not move, looking at the amazing dance of Lord Gauranga in front of him, the chariot would not move, and the chariot was just waiting Lord Jagannath's Rath was not moving. And then Mahaprabhu just with his head, he just went and pushed the Lord Jagannatha cart, and then the cart started moving. There are many, many instances like this. The very first instance when Mahaprabhu went inside by himself at that time, and he fainted and he fell down, and then he stood by. After that, he always stood by the Garuda Stamba, and by the pillar. He never went inside the altar, and so many instances have been seen, and his tears that he shed are still there. It's like a small water collection there. It is still there by the Garuda Stamba there. And the right panel here shows Mahaprabhu's place where he stayed, and the temple is called as Gambhira. And so many pastimes have been recorded with Lord Jagannath, with Mahaprabhu, and they have been recorded in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The next temple that we will do is called as Alarnath. And this temple, Alarnath, is in a place called as Brahmagiri. And it's about half an hour from Puri. And this temple, it's about 14 miles. And in the in the picture here, shows the actual deity. The deity was initially called as Alvarnath or Alvarnath. And this Alvar or Alvarnath eventually came to be called as Alarnath. And it's the four-handed form of Lord Vishnu. And in this form, it's a very beautiful form. And this is the temple when during the 2 weeks of Rath Yatra, when Lord Jagannath leaves the temple of Puri, this is where Lord Chaitanya stayed for those 2 weeks. And when he stayed there for 2 weeks, it is a very amazing temple to visit. And the Lord Chaitanya's six-handed form is there in this temple. And when he fell on the stone after dancing, the stone melted, and the form of Lord Chaitanya is embedded on the stone in this temple. So if we see here, this is a separate place in the temple. This is the six-handed form of Lord Chaitanya with the top hands as with raised hands as Lord Mahaprabhu, and then as the blue hands. Okay, so you have Lord Ramachandra and the top hands holding the bow, and then is Krishna holding the flute, and then is Lord Chaitanya. In this way, this is and in front of this, you can see here that there is a stone slab, and the form of Lord Chaitanya fell on this slab. The stone melted, and that can still be seen, and it is worshipped. So this is the temple of Alarnath. The next temple we will do today is Kshira Chora Gopinath, and the center deity here is Kshir Chor Gopinath. And this deity, Kshira, is milk, and Chor is thief. Gopinath, the Gopinath who stole the milk for his devotee Madhavendra Puri. And this Gopinath deity, and to the left here is Madan Mohan, and to the right is Govinda Dev. So Madan Mohan and Lord Govinda, those deities were added only about 100 years ago, but the Gopinath temple has been existing for a long time. So Madan Mohan and Govinda deities, they were brought from Vrindavan by a devotee, and they were placed next to, flanked, they flank Gopinath on either side. In one side, there is Madan Mohan to the left and Govind Dev Ji to the right. And this temple has a lot of history, and this is the outside complex of the temple, and you can see Lord Chaitanya there. And Madhavendra Puri from Vrindavan, he was praying to the deity which we did last week in the session. The deity was called as Gopala, and he was, but right now the deity is not there in near Govardhan anymore, but the deity has been transported to Nath Dwara in Rajasthan, which is almost close to the Gujarat border, and he's now called Srinath. And the deity was hidden in bushes and for a very long time, and the deity developed fever. And until Madhavendra Puri had discovered the deity and then performed the food offerings, which is still going on, and the Annakuta ceremony. And the deity developed fever, and in the dream, the Gopala deity had mentioned to Madhavendra Puri that in order to cool him down, Madhavendra Puri had to travel to East India near Nilachal, which is the present day's Puri. And in Nilachal, there is a forest of sandalwood, and there he needs to bring those logs of sandalwood back to Vrindavan and then make a paste and apply this on Gopala for the fever to go down. And then Madhavendra Puri, when he had walked all the way from Vrindavan, he went to this place called as Remuna. And when he went there, he saw this beautiful deity of Gopinath, and which is shown in, and this deity of Gopinath was so beautiful. But something very distinct about this deity is that offering of the sweet milk of rice offering called as kheer. In Sanskrit, it is kshira, and that offering, but it is called as Amrit Keli. It was popularly called there as Amrit Keli, and that was being offered to the deity. And when he saw it, Madhavendra Puri for a minute wondered what would be the recipe of this offering. Because if he knew the recipe of this and how wonderfully tasty this recipe would be, that then he could also make this for his Gopala deity in Vrindavan. So, but when he thought about it for a moment, he felt like he committed an offense, because he felt like as though he was trying to relish that offering, which was actually meant for the deity of Gopinath. And he felt very sad, and he just went away from the temple to a nearby forest, and he never ate, and he just sat down by the tree. And that night he just spent in that next to the tree. But at that time, the deity of Gopinath had hid a pot of sweet rice for his devotee Madhavendra Puri. And the deity mentioned to the priest the priest of the temple, he mentioned, the Gopinath mentioned to the priest in his dream that he has hid a pot of sweet rice, and this is for Madhavendra Puri. But the priest did not even know who Madhavendra Puri was. And then he went to the altar, and he saw that there was a pot of sweet rice, just as in his dream. And then he took that pot, and then he went to the forest, and then the priest started shouting everywhere, who's Madhavendra Puri, who's Madhavendra Puri, and so on. And when he was shouting in this way, at that time, by a tree, he saw Madhavendra Puri, and then the priest gave this kheer, Amrit Keli, to Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri just was stunned that the deity himself had stolen this sweet milk rice for him. And then when Madhavendra Puri tasted it, it was so amazing, and he learned the recipe of this. And then afterwards, Madhavendra Puri went to find the sandalwood logs. At that time, there were a lot of foreign rulers who had come there, and the path going from Odisha back to Vrindavan was not very safe. And there was a lot of thieves, and so it was very hard to take. At that time, suddenly Gopinath, the deity Gopala, told him that he is not different from Gopinath, and therefore to take the sandalwood paste and apply to Gopinath himself. And when he applies to Gopinath, the fever of Gopala in Vrindavan would go down. And Madhavendra Puri took that instruction from Gopala, and then he made paste out of the sandalwood logs, and then every day he offered that paste to the Gopinath deity. But just about a month after that, Madhavendra Puri left his body from this, and there is, just by the temple, we can still find the Samadhi tomb of Madhavendra Puri in Remuna. So that is one pastime of Kshirachora Gopinath. But Kshirachora Gopinath, how the deity came about is Lord Ramachandra Prabhu himself carved the deity of Krishna when he was in Chitrakoot. And at that time, he carved the deity of Gopinath, and the deity of Gopinath was worshipped by Krishna, by Sita Devi. And Lord Rama had the mentions to Sita Devi that he had long ago came as Krishna. And as Krishna when he came, and this is how he looked, and Sita Devi was very curious to know how the form would look. And then he carved this form, and he said, and I will come again in a future time, and at that time I will be lifting the Govardhan hill, and then I will be displaying many pastimes in Vrindavan, and this is how I would look. And then that deity was actually in Chitrakoot, and that is not in Odisha. Okay, so but later there was after that, this is in the 24th cycle. That is in the cycle of Swayambhuva Manu. At that time this was carved, but then after that Treta Yuga was completed, in that cycle Lord Brahma took over the worship of Gopinath. And afterwards, in about 1280, in this age, there was a king called Narasimha Deva, and he took the deity from Chitrakoot because there was like nobody worshipping the deity there. There were hardly any people there. It was a forest. And then he took it to Odisha, and there he took it to Remuna, where he established. The deity actually was and then after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, at that time, there was a very famous devotee called Rasikananda, and he was a disciple of Shyamananda Prabhu, whom we spoke about in the last seminar, the first seminar when we discussed the temples of Vrindavan. And he excavated. This deity was eventually had to be preserved from. There were rulers, Muslim rulers there, who were not very. They were going to destroy the deity, and many of the devotees had this deity put in a pond nearby, and then Rasikananda took the deity from the pond and where it was hidden during the Mughal invasion, and then established the deity again in the temple. So and there were many pastimes of Rasikananda in that temple, which have been recorded. And it is in this temple that Rasikananda disappeared in this deity's altar. And as he was dancing with 7 of his associates, and all the 7 associates disappeared along with Rasikananda in the altar of Gopinath. And and now we can find the Samadhi of Rasikananda within the temple complex itself. In the courtyard of the temple itself, you can find the Samadhi of Rasikananda Prabhu and all the other 7 associates. All their Samadhis can be found as they disappeared in this temple itself. So this is, in brief, the activities and the interactions of the deity Kshirachora Gopinath. The next temple we will take is Sakshi Gopal. So Sakshi Gopal, to the left, you can see the entire, the deity from toe to head. You can see the deity. The deity is very beautiful. This is the top left panel here. The deity is very beautiful. You can see how the deity is bent and amazingly looking. And then to the top right, you can see how the head of the deity is also tilted to the right, holding a flute. And the bottom panel here shows the temple tower of Sakshi Gopal. And this temple is only about 6 miles from Jagannath Puri. And the deity, I'm not going to go in too much into the detail because it's a whole chapter in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. But the deity actually walked from Vrindavan to a place called Vidyanagara, which is about 25 miles from the Godavari River, in a place called as Rajamundri. And there was, and why the deity walked is the deity was in the Gopala deity was in Vrindavan and in the service of an older Brahmana and a younger Brahmana. They were worshipping together. And the older Brahmana had given a promise to the younger Brahmana that he would give his daughter in marriage to the younger Brahmana. But then when after a couple of years, when the younger Brahmana came to ask the older Brahmana who was in Orissa at that time, when he came to ask for their daughter, the older Brahmana, because the pressure from their family, said that he did not even remember the younger Brahmana. And then they all asked if they had a witness. And the only witness who was there for this was Gopala himself in Vrindavan. So the younger Brahmana traveled all the way to Vrindavan and asked the deity of Gopala that he should come with him. And then the Gopala deity said that, have you ever heard of deities walking from one place to another? And so it's so unheard of. And if you want, you bring them here. But then the younger Brahmana said, well, you are also talking, but if the deity can talk, why can the deity walk? And then Gopala even said, okay, he will come, but he will, but as he's walking, the younger Brahmana will be able to hear his ankle bell sounds. But but if he turns back, then he will stop. And then they had come to this place. The deity walked all the way to Vidyanagara, and where the deity stopped at one place, and the deity provided witness to that the older Brahmana did indeed say, give the promise, and the deity was called as Sakshi Gopal. Sakshi means witness. So, and afterwards, King Purushottama, he moved the deity from Vidyanagara to what is right now called as Kataka. So Katak, and that is where the deities was then moved. And then the deity also stayed within the Jagannath temple for some time. And then the current temple was built. So these are the pastimes of Sakshi Gopal. But I kept it brief just because it is already covered extensively in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The next temple we are going to do is in West Bengal, in Navadvip in Nadia district. And the place of the temple is it's very close to Mayapur. And the top panel here shows the Jagannath, Balarama and Subhadra deity there. And the bottom panel is the temple tower. The location is near Mayapur, pretty close to the Chandkazi Samadhi. And in the 1500s, there was a devotee in Navadvip called as Jagadisha Ganguly. And he was slowly losing his vision. And when he was and every year he used to go to the Rath Yatra in Puri. But then when he was slowly losing his vision, he was not able to travel anymore. At that time, Lord Jagannatha himself told him that he would appear as a log of wood floating along the river Ganga. And this devotee Jagadisha Ganguly should take that log of wood and take it to a person who is the correct person to carve it. But that person had a disease, leprosy, and he had a lot of pain. And then when this Jagadish Ganguly told him that this is an order from Lord Jagannatha that he should carve it, but he hesitated, saying that he has this disease and he has a lot of pain, he won't be able to carve. But then finally, when he said that this is an instruction of Lord Jagannath, then he finally carved the deities. But when he carved the deities, his disease leprosy vanished, and then the deities were installed in this temple here. And then when this devotee, Jagadish Ganguly, also got his vision back, and later, after about few hundred years, the deity was lost, and it was just covered in termite. And there was, at that time, it was again recovered and worshipped. And then there was a particular devotee, Chatterjee, who was worshipping the deity. But then the deity it was hard to keep the proper worship of the deity, and then the deity later was provided to ISKCON to take care of the deities. And right now ISKCON is managing this temple, and there are many pastimes of this deity, and one such pastime, and a lot of these pastimes were recorded by a devotee called His Grace Pankajangri Prabhu, and they're all recorded and written as a book actually. And one or two pastimes I will just say here. There's one devotee called Jaimini Ghosh, and he was sleeping one night there in Bengal, and at that time he really wanted to go and see Lord Jagannatha in Puri, and the deities he was transported by these deities from here to Puri, and then he worshipped there for a couple of days, and then he eventually was missing his own family, and he wanted to see them back because they will all be thinking like, where has he suddenly gone? And then he prayed again to these Jagannatha deities, and then that night he was again transported physically in the dream from Puri back to the deities here. And in this way, these are just one incident, but there are so many incidents. There was a pujari had to give offering to the Jagannath, Balarama, Subhadra deities here. But when the offering was done, there was no tulasi leaf, but the offering had to be immediately given, and he could not go find the tulasi leaf. And then he apologized to the deity and saying that he didn't have tulasi leaf to put on the food offering, and to please take the food offering. And when after the offering was made, and then when he came back, he saw that there was like a whole twig, a branch of tulasi leaves just on the altar. So in addition to this, there are so many other incidents that have happened. People have recovered their vision here, and there was a Muslim girl who came and worshipped in this temple and got their vision recovered. Many material things also have benedictions have happened in this temple. So anybody going to Mayapur, this is a very nice temple to visit and pray, and praying with all sincerity in this temple. The deities are very kind and have interacted with many devotees. The next place we'll go is Ekachakra, and this is the place of appearance of Lord Nityananda. And the temple here was established by Lord Nityananda's son, Veerabhadra Gosai. And the deity here is called Bankim Raya. And the deity was found by Lord Nityananda when he went on a pilgrimage. He was not there in Ekachakra for almost 30 years. And there in his pilgrimage, that's where he found the deity. And then he came and established the temple here. When he brought the deity back, but his son established, Veerabhadra Gosai established his temple. And then when Lord Nityananda left this planet, at that time he entered into this deity of Bankim Raya. And so here we can see in one side we can see Radharani, and to the other side we can actually see Janava Devi. Janava Devi's deity was actually installed after the disappearance of Lord Nityananda. And then there is in a separate altar that is not shown in this picture, there is a deity of Yogamaya on a separate throne to the right. So this is the Lord Narasimhadev temple, which is located in ISKCON Mayapur. There are so many pastimes, interactions, activities that have taken place. Since I'm covering East India, I'm going to cover the Lord Narasimha deity here. I'm going to first start with the appearance of Lord Narasimha here. And there were 35 dacoits armed who came to Mayapur. This is in ISKCON Mayapur. And they stole the Prabhupada's Murti as well as the deity of Radharani. Prabhupada's deity was eventually rescued, but Radharani's deity did not see the altar back after that. And then the devotees at the time had a lot of discussion, and then they came to a conclusion that they would install Lord Narasimha's deity, which would solve this problem. And it's not just that, but even nearby in the Yoga Peeth, which is the appearance place of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there also they had these problems. And so they thought, okay, they would install the deity. And then a sketch was drawn by Atma Tattva Prabhu, and where the requirements were given here. And the requirements were that the legs of the deity would be bent, and the deity should be ready to jump. Okay, and the deity to look ferocious, the fingers curled, and flames over the head. So this kind of a deity is called as Ugra Narasimha, very, very fierce, and you need a Naishtika Brahmachari, celibate from birth, and His Grace Pankajangri Prabhu agreed to be the pujari for this Lord Narasimha deity, who has not even been carved yet. And so then they went to South India and to Tamil Nadu, and they went to different sculptors to have and showed them this picture. But all of them pretty much, of the first sculptor whom they spoke with, they mentioned the requirements and how this deity should be and so on. And then he felt that he cannot carve that kind of a deity. It is just not good. And then they went and spoke to so many other sculptors. It took a while, and but all of them refused. And then for some reason they went back to the original sculptor, and then they showed them different Puranas and how this deity has to be and so on, the requirement and the problem they're having in Mayapur. And the sculptor said, you know, let me think a little. He has to ask his teacher, and his teacher was Shankaracharya of Kanchipuram, and that's Thapati, means sculptor's guru. And he said he had to go ask him for permission because this is a very difficult project to do. And so when he went to Shankaracharya of Kanchipuram, they said, do not carve this kind of a deity because it will just, and then he showed the sketch, and then this is a Ugra Narasimha, but this particular Narasimha is also called Sthanu Narasimha. And these kind of deities are not, they are not there in this planet in Earth. So you should not carve it because there could be a lot of natural calamities after this, because this Lord Narasimha should not be carved like this, and even you might even have problems in your own family after that and so on. But then afterwards he asked, who is asking to carve this? They said, oh no, the Krishna people from ISKCON in Mayapur, they're asking me to carve. Then for some reason the Shankaracharya there thought through, and he said, well, if that is the case, I think you should carve for them and give. And then having gotten the instructions from him, he came back at that time when Atma Tattva Prabhu met him. They said, okay, I've got instructions, I've got approval from my teacher Shankaracharya, who is from Kanchipuram. He has said that I should carve for you all, and I'm going to carve it. And then he started to carve, and then he started to go find the stone for this. He needed a 6 feet stone slab to carve the Lord Narasimha deity. And he went everywhere, and after a few months, Atma Tattva Prabhu came and told him, you said that you would carve in 6 months, and already several months have passed, and where is the deity? And then he said, well, I said 6 months after I find the stone slab, but I have not even found the stone slab. I'm going everywhere and I'm trying to find the stone slab and I cannot find it. And then afterwards, and Atma Tattva Prabhu came back, and then he said, where is the stone and what is the delay? And then he said, you see, I just cannot carve this kind of a deity from any stone. The scriptures say what kind of a stone I need to use for the deity. And if I hit the stone slab in 7 spots, it needs to make a different kind of a sound. And so I need to find that kind of a stone. And there is a secondary test after that there are certain bugs that eat granites, and I need to leave that bug in one side, and then the bug needs to eat the stone and then move and then come out of the other side and leave a trail. And so all these tests they need to pass, only then I can carve. And then Atma Tattva Prabhu was like, how is he going to go back to Mayapur and explain to all the devotees about all this sound test and bug eating granite test and everything? And they are like desperately waiting for the deity. And then he sincerely prayed to Lord Narasimha and then came back here. And then at that time, when he came back, there was the he said that that stone slab has been found, and they were going to carve, and he was going to carve the Lord Narasimha. And then when he was going to carve, and then he finally found some relief in this, that something is going to happen. But he said that we have had a discussion. We should also have Prahalad Maharaj standing here, and the deity is going to be Prahalad Narasimha. And we need the Prahalad deity for 1 feet tall. And you can see the Prahalad deity here to the left of Lord Narasimha. And the sculptor, the Sthapati, immediately said, no, that cannot be done. If you carve for 1 feet, then the deity of Narasimha should be 120 feet tall. Okay, so I don't have a stone slab for 120 feet. And then he said, no. The deity of Lord Narasimha is only going to be, 4 feet tall. And then he said, well, for 4 feet, then Prahalad Maharaj will be as tiny as an amoeba. So you cannot have that kind. And then some back and forth discussion happened again. And then finally the sculptor relented and then agreed to make the Prahalad Maharaj deity at 1 feet and the Lord Narasimha deity just the way it is showing now. And then he finished doing the deity, but then it was the monsoon season, and then he kept the deity in a thatched hut and then closed the altar, closed that hut, and then just left and locked the thatched hut and left. And then suddenly when he came back after visiting his relative's place and so on, he found that the hut already caught fire and then it just burned. But when he came inside, he was so scared to see what would happen, but Lord Narasimha stayed as it is. And then he immediately caught hold of Atmatattva Prabhu and told him, please take the deity. The deity doesn't want to stay here anymore. And that he has already done the Prana Pratishta ceremony thing. And the deity, everything has been done. You please take the deity immediately. And the deity wants to go back, wants to go to Mayapur. So please take the deity. And then, but there was a lot of formalities to be done. And then the Lord Narasimha was untouched in the fire. And he said he wants to go now and he's leaving to Mayapur. But they had to get police permission, because for transferring such a huge deity from Tamil Nadu all the way to West Bengal, so they had to get police permission. And then the police, they by the grace of the Lord, all the permission was all being signed. And then there was a department, Central Sales Tax Department of the Tamil Nadu government, and they had to sign it. They said they're not going to sign it until they really see the deity. And then when they came and saw the deity, and then and then they prayed to the deity, and then they signed everything, whatever was needed. And then at every state, they had to move through Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, and then go to West Bengal. So different signatures had to be obtained through the different states. And in this way, the deity was then finally installed between 28th to 30th July 1986. So several benedictions have been offered by this Lord Narasimha deity here. And many devotees have gone, prayed, and the deity has been very merciful. And a lot of these narrations have been by the priest of the temple, His Grace Pankajangri Prabhu. And this is a separate book about this, so I'm not going to go any further into this, but Lord Sri Narasimha Dev ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. So in the same light, we are going to go a little south and to the temple of Ahobilam. There are 9 Lord Narasimha deities here in Ahobilam. And in this, we are going to talk about all the 9 deities briefly. To the left panel is the actual deity picture of Lord Narasimha, and I will show them to you. So you have Sri Lakshmi Narasimha, Jwala Narasimha, Ahobila Narasimha, Malola Narasimha, Varaha Narasimha, Karanja Narasimha, Bhargava Narasimha, Yogananda Narasimha, Chatrabhatha Narasimha, Pavana Narasimha, Jwala Narasimha, Ahobila. So these are the 9 deities there. We're going to talk about them. The top right panel here is the hill that you have to climb in order to go and visit all these 9 temples. And in the top you can see the big slab there. That is the pillar through which Lord Narasimha came out. Before slaying Hiranyakashipu. In the bottom right panel here, you can see the temple tower of Lord Narasimha in the upper Ahobilam. Okay, and I will talk about that to you. This is the first, this is the deity is self-manifest, and is self-manifest, and we will just briefly cover the 9 deities. Okay, so the first Narasimha Dev, which we're going to talk about, is Bhargava Narasimha. As Bhargava Rama, he did penance here, and that Lord Narasimha deity is called as Bhargava Narasimha. And then Yogananda Narasimha. Lord Narasimha taught Prahlad Maharaj several yogic postures, and there he is in a peaceful position as Yogananda Narasimha Swami. And then Chhatravata Narasimha, there is a peepal tree, and it's called Chhatra. Vata means tree there, and the deity is installed under this peepal tree, and this is called as, he's called as Chhatravata Narasimha. Ahobilam Narasimha, that is the picture you see to the right. This is the actual deity in the temple. The situated on the upper Ahobilam, okay, appears, and there is like waterfalls and nearby, and appears in his fierce aspect here. He's Ugra Narasimha and Swayambhu. That means that he's self-manifest here. Nobody has installed him here. And Varaha Narasimha. So this deity has a face of the boar. He's Lord Narasimha, but he has a face of the boar as Varaha, and you can see Goddess Lakshmi along with him, and he's called as Lakshmi Varaha Narasimha. And this is the 5th temple. And for all this, you have to walk through the mountains to visit all these temples. There is usually, you might have to have a little stick with you because there are a lot of monkeys on the way, and to find your path, and so that you don't slip. Some of the paths are a little hard to climb, and but you can cover them in one day if needed. So Karanja Narasimha, the deity is installed under a tree called Karanja. And Malola Narasimha. So here the deity appears in a very graceful form called as Saumya Narasimha. And Malola means someone who is pleasing Lord Lakshmi Devi. And so this Narasimha, Malola Narasimha, has a rich history in Sri Vaishnava. In Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, many sannyasis and their Sampradaya called Jir have worshipped this deity, and the deity worship is continuing till to date. Is a very highly venerated deity in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, Malola Narasimha. And then this is the topmost deity temple in the Ahobilam called Jwala Narasimha. This temple of Jwala Narasimha lies higher up, okay, and this place is said to be the actual spot where the fierce anger of the Lord reached its culmination, where he tore Hiranyakashipu. And in addition to this, the 9th Narasimha is called Pavana Narasimha. This Narasimha is not in the regular path. You have to go a little away, Pavana Narasimha, on the banks of a river called as Pavana. And not included in this 9 is the lower Ahobilam. And here the deity is, the deity is called Prahlad Varada. And you can see Prahlad Maharaj here. And you have Lakshmi Narasimha. So Prahlad Varada, and this is the Lakshmi Narasimha Swami. And all these 10 temples together is one unit of Sri Vaishnava Divya Desam, and which has been sung by the Arvars of the Sri Vaishnavas. And then in addition to this, there is a Ugra Stamba, which is a cleft of the mountain I showed in the previous slide, which is where Lord Narasimha divided into 2 visible parts and emanated and appeared in this plan. This is going to be my last temple. There are 3 slides here, which I'm going to cover today, which is the Tirumala temple. And This temple has been covered in 250 hymns called as the Pasurams in Tamil, and has been covered by Poigai Alvar, Boodatharvar, Peyarvar, Thirumalai Alvar, Periyarvar, Andal, Thiruppan Alvar, Nammalvar, Thirumangai Alvar. All but one Alvar called Tondar Adipudi Alvar have covered this. These songs, these hymns called as the Pasurams, which are now part of what are called as Divya Prabandham, has been composed in the age between 4,300 BC to around 2,300 BC. The first three Arvars called Poigai, Pei, Boodatharvar, they all lived in Dwapar Yuga before the appearance of Krishna. But then some on the other Arvars just appeared just after the Kali Yuga, during the interface, the start of the Kali. And the last of the Arvar was around 2300 BC, around that time. I didn't see the exact dates. I just wrote this from my memory, but that's where it is. But the modern historians, after the British invaded India, they have very mysterious dates and the AD, which is not in alignment with the dates of the Sri Vaishnavas. So the British, when they came here, a lot of the Indian history, the dates have been distorted. So but the dates as mentioned in the Sri Vaishnava literature is somewhere around 4,300 BC to 2,300 BC. So there are 7 hills here. Sheshadri, Niladri, Garudadri, Anjanadri, Vrishabhadri, Narayanadri, Venkatadri. So these are the 7 hoods of Adishesha appearing as the 7 hills, and of which the Vrishabhadri was appeared in the Satya Yuga. There was a demon called Vrishaba, and then when he was slayed, a hill appeared for his. In response to him, Lord Vishnu appeared one of the hills as Vrishabhadri. And then you have in the Treta Yuga, the Lord Hanuman's mother, Anjana Devi. She prayed, and then there's a hill in dedication for her called Anjanadri. In Dwapar Yuga, there was a fight between Shesha and Vayu, and both of them, this fight is not, we shouldn't consider this like a regular fight, there's just some pastimes of them. And then Lord Shesha appeared as the hill there called as Sheshadri. And then in this Kali age, the hill where the deity of the temple is called as Venkatadri. And basically, if you in Sanskrit, if you cut this word, it is Vain means sin, burning the sins. Okay, Venkatadri. Okay, Kata means to cut, to burn away the sins. And this is so this is a place where tremendous amount of sins can be burned. And so these are the 7 hills, and all of these hills have rich history, which I'm not going to cover today. But the temple has been covered in 10 Puranas. The Bhagavatam does not cover it though, but it has been covered in 10 Puranas, and in 250 hymns of the Sri Vaishnava saints, they have been covered. I think there is only one temple who has more number of hymns in the Sri Vaishnava canon than the Tirumala temple, and that is the Srirangam temple, which we will cover next week. And but the first deity here, which is the self-manifest deity, the Lord Venkateshwara deity was not the first deity here, but it's Lord Varahadeva, who is the first deity and the guardian deity here. It is by the water body which is just next to the temple called the Swami Pushkarini, and there is Lord Varaha. It's a very small temple, and this Lord Varaha only gave permission later to Lord Venkateshwara to take for his temple to be for him to have his place there. And then in the month of Margashira, at that time, it's all dedicated to the worship of Krishna, and where the 30 hymns of the Sri Vaishnava Arvar called as Andal each day is dedicated to that. And then there is a Lord Narasimha temple, which is midway in the hills from the bottom, and and Sri Ramanujacharya installed this temple here. Then you have Lourdes Padmavati, and Lourdes Padmavati is not in the Tirumala, but she is there in below the hills, in a place called Tiruchanur, and she appeared as a daughter of a king called as Akasha Raja, and and then she marries Lord Srinivasa. That is a separate full history of how she marries Lord Srinivasa. But a majority of the current service that has been done, the credits all goes to the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya Acharya called as Ramanujacharya. And it is Sri Ramanujacharya who re-established the deity worship. A number of Shaivites at the time, in around 1000 AD, they had created a lot of confusion and brainwashed the king there about the identity of the deity who has been sung by all these Alvars. And then Ramanujacharya gave him many explanations, but then at the end, he said that to put the initially they said that this deity could be Skanda or Kumaraswamy, and then when Ramanujacharya refuted it, that there is no basis for all that, and then they said, okay, if it is not Skanda, then why can't it be Lord Shiva? And then he said, okay, finally he refuted that also. But then the king was very upset with all the Shaivites there. He said, these people have just simply brainwashed me and not allowing the proper worship of Lord Vishnu here. And but then I'm going to banish all these Shaivites out of this place, and there won't be any worship of anybody other than Lord Vishnu here in this in these 7 hills. And but Ramanujacharya, being so munificent and kind, he then told the king that in spite of all the explanations I've given you, I still think that there is a slight doubt in your mind. So let's do something. I'm going to give the newly carved weapons of the Lord, the Shank, the Chakra, and everything. And then the Shaivites, they can put their paraphernalia of Lord Shiva, and let's close the altar for tonight, and let's see what happens tomorrow morning. And then they closed the altar in the morning, and Lord Ramanuja prayed in his yogic form to Lord Vishnu. And then the next day, all the Shankha, Chakra, everything, the deity just adorned all of them and stood there. And since then, so Ramanujacharya had to undergo a lot of things he has done. The amount of work, the amount of thing that Ramanujacharya has done is just stunning. It just doesn't even seem humanly even possible. And we will cover a lot of the service that Lord Ramanuja has done in our next seminar lecture, which is next Friday. And then deity ornament establishment, and Lord Ramanuja, there were like Nagabharas, there are like 2 ornaments, one of them went missing, and then Ramanujacharya established the deity ornament, and then the deity tilak shape. It is exactly how Ramanujacharya had made the tilak. And there are many rumors about why the tilak is in this way, because it's covering a bulk of his eyes and face. And but basically, this is how Ramanujacharya put the tilak, and it stays as it is. And then is the identity of Venkateshwara with another deity who is in Tirupati, which is the below the hills, and there's a deity of the Lord as Govindaraja, and this Govindaraja again has a history. There was in Tamil Nadu at that time, there was one of the Chora kings who was very he was so much towards favored the Shaivites that he started being very cruel to the Vaishnavas and to the temples of Lord Vishnu. And he took the Govindaraja deity from the place called as Tiruchitrakutam, which is now called as Chidambaram. And this Tiruchitrakutam is a place where there is a Lord Shiva deity as Nataraj, and right next to it, the Lord Vishnu lies in the milk ocean form, and he's called as Govindaraja. And this Govindaraja, this Chora king just couldn't handle that, and then he took the deity, removed the deity from the altar and threw it into the ocean, okay, in the Bay of Bengal. And but at that time, Ramanujacharya, he saved the Utsava deity alone from the ocean and brought it and kept it in this temple in Tirupati and in the Govindarajaswamy temple. And the original deity of Govindarajaswamy in Tiruchitrakutam, which is now called Chidambaram or Thillai Nagar. So that deities, he again had the deity by his devotional service, he made that deity enter into the Govindarajaswamy of Tirupati. And then he said that the Tirumala deity of Venkateshwara and the Govindarajaswamy in the Tirupati, they are one unit and to be seen as a single Sri Vaishnava Divya Desam. So whatever worship is done to Venkateshwara, it's the same offering in the Govindarajaswamy, and that they are one and the same. So here is the temple tower of it's like a 7-tier tower of the Govindarajaswamy, and to the right is the Govindarajaswamy deity. And this is my last slide as Padmavati, as goddess Padmavati in the place is called Tiruchanur or Alamelu Mangapuram. And here the goddess gives all benedictions in terms of fortune, and hence the goddess is also called Shri. And to all the Vaishnavas who come there. And this is a massive temple, and all those who visit the Venkateshwara temple, they visit the goddess Mahalakshmi and to get the blessings as well. So with that, I'm going to stop. The time now is I just a little past the time. I'm going to stop. Any minor discussion? I have time till about another 20 minutes, and then I have to leave. But if I've made any mistakes, please forgive me. And if I have said anything incorrect, it is a little hard to squeeze so many temples in this time. The next seminar series is going to be all South Indian temples in South India, and then we will do all miscellaneous temples that I have left. Okay, so Vancha Kalpatribhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you again for this opportunity. And next week, it's not on Thursday, it's on Friday at 11 o'clock. And it will be the third seminar of this series. Thank you again. Thank you for this opportunity. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranams. All glories to Prabhupada. Very beautiful session, Prabhu. Beautiful slides also. And you covered so many temples. That's so beautiful, so wonderful. I have one question. Maybe I may sound silly, but I was wondering that why the particular devotee of the Lord who is in so much devotion is not able to see the Lord face to face, and why the near and dear ones, or maybe the spouse of the Lord, may be able to see that the form of the Lord. Like, for example, you covered the pastime of Dasya Bauri. He was not able to see the Lord. His wife was able to see because the golden plate was handed over to her. Similar was the case in
Jayadeva Goswami.
Jayadev Goswami. Same is the case with Arjunacharya. Why it is so that what with this, what do we feel that what does Lord want to show?
I don't know, Mataji, but it's just the service that they have done. And here, one thing that we can think of, I don't want to speculate too much on this, but one thing we can think of here is even the Aradhanam Sarvesham Vishnu Aradhanam Param Tasmat Paratram Devi. So the even greater than the worship of Lord Vishnu is the worship of the Vaishnavas. And those wives whom we are talking about, they have served exalted Vaishnava in the form of their husband. And the Lord has recognized it and given the darshan not to his own direct devotee, but to the devotee's devotee kind of a thing. So that's like one thing we can talk about here. But any other speculation, I think there are many senior Vaishnavas here. They can of course, answer, but it's just a small thing that came to my mind. So,
No, yes, Prabhu. Actually, when you were telling, it makes a lot of sense that how the Lord says that worship of me is higher than the worship of my devotees. And all these devotees, all these wives, they were serving their husbands so nicely. So definitely they are totally recipient of Krishna's mercy. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so
it
much.
just doesn't
Thank
go
you.
unrecognized. Krishna recognizes.
Yes, Krishna recognized everything. Very true. Very true. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your association. I'm looking forward for next Friday. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have raised hands. I don't know, Yeshumati Mataji is not unmuting. Paneshwari Lakshmi Mataji, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much. Wonderful class, of course, as always. I have a question. I don't know, maybe it's kind of a weird question, but as you were speaking and you were talking about how the devotees entered the deities at the end, or how do we understand that? How do we, how that they do? That's my question.
So Mataji, it is all, everything depends on the situation. The one thing that I mentioned here is Lord Nityananda. Okay, he disappeared in Ekachakra in that deity of Bankim Raya. And then the other one I mentioned was Rasikananda Prabhu, who went and into the altar. And this has happened many times, but it is all the mood in which they go. So, for example, one of the devotees we spoke about, Andal, who was one of the 12 Arvars, the devotee married the Lord and disappeared in the deity. So, this disappearance in the altar should not be construed as some kind of a Sayujya Mukti or something that they went and or even those in, just merging into the body of the Lord or something like that. But it's the mood in which the devotee is interacting with the Lord. But it is also possible that some of the incidents where they disappeared in the deity also could be because of Sayujya Mukti, but they are not considered in our as a Vaishnava devotee in our sampradayas. So it just depends. And the Lord himself also disappears in the deity. So there are the Lord disappears in the deity. The devotees go and establish a relationship with the Lord. And then, so let's say that a devotee goes and then holds the hand of the Lord and then disappears near the deity. So it all looks the same from external eyes, but the devotee, they will know how they have in what state they have gone into the spiritual realm. So basically, they're gone from the material, their vision, they're not visible to us from our material eyes, and they are in the spiritual realm. So,
okay, so we would understand it as that they had returned to the spiritual world, into their whatever their Siddha Swarup is to do that position, and not that they've merged into the deity.
Exactly, very well summarized. Right. Very well.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Prabhu. And yes, as your answer as to why the devotees of the devotees got the vision of the Lord is very, very appropriate. Very nice answer. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Indulekha Mataji, please go ahead with your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for bringing in so many wonderful temples and their pastimes and beautiful pictures of the deities in so many of these temples. Prabhuji, I mean, I have a very, very small question because I haven't been to this place. So in Jagannath Puri temple, you showed a huge deity of Lord Jagannath, right? In the beginning.
That is the actual deity.
That is the actual deity. So they all have,
it's huge. The
deity is huge. So how do they bring them out on the Rath Yatra?
It is, they need so much help. It's very, very huge.
Okay.
That is why the Jagannath Rath is so big in size. The deity is very big.
Yes. Okay. So all three of them are in one altar.
They're all in the same altar and all of them are big.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. I was also wondering, you said that in the Bankin Raya temple, there we have Srimati Radharani and Janava Mata?
Yeah, Janava Devi, yes.
Janava Devi, okay. Okay, but so it's is it similar to, I know that in Vrindavan also there is a temple where there is Janava Devi?
Yes, the only special thing here, Mataji, is that because it is Lord Nityananda's appearance place and his
Okay,
son
that's why.
installed it, and Janava Devi's was installed after the disappearance of Lord Nityananda. It was not there originally.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very beautiful.
Thank you, Indulekha Mataji. Okay, who is this? Hare Krishna was having question. I accidentally raised down. Can you please unmute?
Okay. Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for letting me asking question. Prabhuji, we always hear that we should not speculate. So can you enlighten me what is speculate and how to not to do speculate?
So the speculating just means that if we don't know an answer to something, then we use our limited material mind to think through and find an answer to it. But that will be flawed. And it uses various methods like sense perception. It uses logic, anumana, pratyaksha, these things, these basic material elements to understand, to reason out something, and or to find the rationale behind a particular event. So that kind of a speculation has limited value. Maybe it is true, may not be, it may not be true. There is just no way to prove that any of that is correct. So the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, in our Sampradaya, we have Jiva Goswami in his Tattva Sandarbha and Bhagavat Sandarbha has very clearly said that we have rejected the first two pramanas, or called as sense perception and anumana, which is pratyaksha, and anumana is the logical reasoning and a method of induction. And we have discounted it because of its intrinsic limitations. Whereas we, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Jiva Goswami says that we strictly abide by what is called a Shabda or Shruti. That means like what is being told by the scripture, what is being told by the Mahajanas, in terms of like if we have heard like Bhakti Vinod Thakur say something, and then that is considered as a fact. But if we think about it, okay, somebody asked me a question about why the Lord showed his form to the wife, but not to the person who was performing the devotional service to him directly for about for 30-40 years or whatever. So if I had used my mind to find an answer, to think, what could it be, then that is a speculation. Then that answer has no value, because what is the value of my opinions? My opinions have no value. However, if Bhakti Vinod Thakur said something, Prabhupada said something, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said something, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said something, then if you go in history like that, whose speech really has value? The 12 Mahajanas. So if you have, if Lord Shiva said something, Brahma said something, Narada Muni said something, Prahalad Maharaj said something, Bali Maharaj said something, then Lord Yama said, then they all take value. So, so that means like we go by what the scriptures say. So if you're seeing here the Tirumala temple, there are 10 Puranas who are who have stated about this temple and listed the various things that are going to happen or happened in the it'll be future, a lot of things in the future. Well, what has happened, what will happen, all those things. So what is said in the scripture is what we are taking. So we are just not speculating ourselves. So if I speculate and say, oh, what about this deity? Why is the deity? So the deity's hand is like this, so let me speculate about, then that will be a fault. So all the acharyas, pretty much, they have gone, the Vaishnava acharyas, they go by what the scriptures say, what the spiritual masters say, and the spiritual masters also don't say something which is not there in the scripture. They also abide by the scripture. So what the Vedas, the Veda, Ramayana, Puranas, Mahabharat, what they say is the basis. So that is why we say we don't speculate. It's a very nice question, because a lot of times we have a tendency to speculate based on our own conditioning, material conditioning, thinking that as though we know something and we have the ability to speculate. But the Supreme Lord Krishna is transcendental, and it is entirely in the spiritual domain, that by our material speculation, we can never understand it.
And one thing, Prabhuji, when like Bhakti Shastra, we need to express without argumentative mentality. Whatever said, we need to accept that. So why we sometimes we know that we need to be Krishna conscious, Bhakti Shastra, we need to be abide by it. But so many of us, we knowing it, we cannot abide by it. So is it we do not have any Shraddha, we do not have faith? Why is that? So especially
is not that
or is it
easy
karma?
If I understand your question well, Mataji, if I understand your question well, it part of the reason for this is the offenses committed to the Vaishnavas. Unknowingly and knowingly, we commit so many offenses all the time, and those Vaishnava aparadas make the progress more difficult. So somehow or the other, if we are able to cut down on the offenses to the Vaishnavas, our progress will be much better, and the Lord will also reveal to us. So the revelation of the Lord is called as causeless, because there is no cause that can actually explain the benedictions of the Lord. Nothing can cause it. So it has to be causeless. So the causeless benedictions of the Lord and his revelation will happen by his own causeless mercy, and for which we can say that whether we are earning it, but we can never earn it. The Lord always has to fill the gap, and the gap is big, and the Lord has to fulfill it. And two things which we can do here is we can try to go get the mercy of devotees, but very importantly, while getting that association, we need to be very careful. We do it all the time, not even by words or by action, just by mind we can create offense. We think of it, some devotee comes, that must be a very well-educated devotee. Oh, this devotee, doesn't seem that educated. Oh, that devotee is rich. All this is offense, because the devotees are living in the spiritual platform, whether they are Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari, doesn't matter in what stage they are. We consider them as spiritual beings and interact with them in that realm. So passing judgments, passing various things. So we commit offense all the time. So we have to be very careful. I don't know, but there will be some exalted devotees in this forum. So I don't want to speak for them. At least I do. And so I have to take care of this every time. And I can see this in terms of a slip. This will create slip in chanting, the quality of chanting, and everything will fall down based on it. So we are very careful with everybody, whether we recognize them as with our material conditioning, whether we recognize them as Vaishnavas or not, it doesn't matter. But essentially, every living being in this living being is a Vaishnava, because they're all related to the Lord, whether they realize it now or in one of the future lifetimes. So thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Forgive me for asking me one more question. Like most of the time, I feel that most of us in intelligent level, not in the mind level. So so if we are most of us in intelligent level, but I do not find I'm stuck in mind level. I do not find myself intellectual level, because I'm not speculating, but that's all the time. I have a question like they're speaking on it's very at intellectual level. They know how to talk in intellectual. So I don't know what is that, Prabhuji.
So, Mataji, one thing I want to say here is there is a distinction here between blind faith and then just accepting everything. So the faith has to be generally strongly built on scriptural knowledge. So otherwise that faith will become shaky. So gaining a proper knowledge and then building that foundation and then going on top of that is a good thing because otherwise, if you just blindly accept something, then it is so shaky. It'll just fall. One disturbance, it'll fall off. So the bhakti has to be firmly the tree. It has to be firmly placed, everything. But as far as you are concerned, Mataji, between mind, intelligence, see, mind, intelligence, false ego. This is how the Lord controls the soul controls the true ego, and then the true ego controls the spiritual intelligence. Intelligence controls the spiritual mind, which controls the spiritual body. But what we are doing is the reverse. Okay, so this one is, you just have to read the Bhagavad Gita about the mind intelligence, and there are so many verses about it. But what we are doing is the opposite. We are letting our sense organs control the body. The body is in turn controlling the mind. The mind is in turn controlling the intelligence. That is the false intelligence. Okay, and then the material intelligence in turn is controlling the false ego. And so we are in this realm. So it is the reverse that we are doing. So that means that we should let our spiritual intelligence dictate to our spiritual mind. Everything has to be spiritualized. So, but it's basically this analysis is Bhagavad Gita is there's a lot of analysis of this in the Bhagavad Gita. So, but I'll just keep it brief.
So we need to be initiated, even though I'm coming in Bhakti Sangha, I'm chanting. So I need to be initiated. Otherwise, it's not going to be like this.
So, Mataji, I wouldn't go into all those intricate things in this kind of a call like this, because there are so many devotees here. It is the devotional service is a very intimate thing between a devotee and the Lord. And these questions, Mataji, as much as you ask, I feel a little hesitant to answer these kind of questions, because it can be so generalistic, and but someone who is more close to an individual devotee, who would be considered as their well-wisher, and who would understand that particular devotee's mind and thing, would be the best person to actually interact and answer this. Because in this kind of broad discussions, as the question becomes more specific, I just don't want to say something which could apply generically, but maybe wrong. So I really ask for your forgiveness, Mataji, because if I am not answering that question, but
forgive me, because I don't have a knowledge. So maybe I'm asking so many details, but because I don't have any friends who are devotees, so that's why I only come in the Bhakti Sangha. And
yeah,
I'm
Mataji,
asking
we
questions.
can talk to you. We can talk to you, Mataji. There are many of us, our friends in this group who guided me also like that. I can connect you to those my friends, so that you can talk to them and clear your doubts. And we are all your friends. You can call us. And I guess you know my number. You'll be finding it in WhatsApp. So you can please message me. I will connect to one of my friends. Okay?
Mataji, can I message you? I do not have a mobile or WhatsApp. It doesn't work.
Yeah, please message me. Yes.
But no, the email, Mataji.
Oh, email. Okay. I can send my email. I can send my email.
Okay, thank you, Mataji.
Dandavat. Okay, we have next question from Dr. Kalpavalli Mataji. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madan. Dandat Pranam for allowing me to ask question. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful pictures and everything, Mata Prabhu. I want to just ask one question. See, you told it is self-manifest deities which are self-manifested or not. In South India, you told Tirupati is self-manifested. In other things, and all, Puri Jagannath and other things, is it self-manifested, or that I want to know?
Some deities are self-manifest, and some are carved based on instructions of what has been given. Like in Puri, the deity actually it came as a log of wood with shank and chakra, everything carved on it. And then there was it is a long history. There is but very briefly, there was a king at that time called Indradhyumna. Then that king had to, they took the deity, carved, and there were instructions for it. And some deities were self-manifest, some are made based on instructions. There are all kinds of varieties, Mataji, all kinds of varieties.
Prabhuji, in North India,
but there is no difference between them. That is all I'm saying. Even whether they are self-manifest or carved, it is the devotees who are seeing the Lord in the deity, and the Lord appears there by his mercy. And therefore, it is the reason why the temples where the deities have been existing for a very long time also are also special, because so many acharyas, so many Vaishnava acharyas have gone and seen the Lord in that, as that deity. So for example, if you take the Lord Jagannath, okay, or even if you take Sri Rangam, for instance, so many Vaishnava acharyas have come there: Ramanuja Acharya, Madhvacharya, Nimbarka Acharya, Vallabhacharya.
From Tamil Nadu, Prabhuji, I visited Sri Rangam from my childhood, Prabhuji. Always I visited Sri Rangam, and Tirupati also I visited many times. And that's why I want to visit Puri Jagannath temple, and that's why I wanted to ask you. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll take two more, Mataji, and then we'll stop. I have to leave after that, but...
Okay. Yeah, we had 2 raised hands. That is Vrinda Gopika Mataji. Please go ahead, Mataji.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, कोटि कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम। श्रील प्रभुपाद श्रील गुरुदेव की जय, श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की जय, श्री श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, श्री श्री साक्षी गोपाल की जय, श्री श्री राधा गोपीनाथ की जय, श्री श्री नरसिंह देव की जय, श्री श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। प्रभु जी, आप जब भी क्लास में आते हो, you take us in a dham. We are not qualified to enter in धाम, पर प्रभु जी इतना पोटेंसी होती है प्रभु जी कि आप हमें सब धाम में आज लेके गए। फिर जो चंदन लगाया है भगवान को, वो सब लीला आपने फील करवाई। अनंत कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम प्रभु जी फॉर योर सिंसियर सेवा। श्रील प्रभुपाद श्रील गुरुदेव की जय, गोपीनाथ की जय। थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी। कोटि कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम। हरे कृष्णा।
Harita Mataji, you raised your hand, right? Would you like to go?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, I have one question about the Narsimha avatars in various temples in Ahobilam. So the one that we visit, right, Prabhu, the temple, is that Ugra Narsimha or Jwala Narsimha, Prabhu?
Which temple, Mataji?
The main temple in Ahobilam.
The upper Ahobilam. So there is now they're calling it as lower Ahobilam and upper Ahobilam. The upper Ahobilam is considered the main temple, and that is Ugra Narasimha.
That is Ugra Narasimha is Swayambhu.
Yeah, that is a Swayambhu. Yeah.
And the lower one is the newly that
is Prahlad Varada. That Narasimha, even though that is also Lakshmi Narasimha, but he's called Prahlad Varada. And I don't know, I have to look into exactly the history of that deity, but he's not counted in the 9.
Okay, Prabhu. And one more question, Prabhu. In Tirupati, we have Mangapattanam also. So these two, like Padmavati Devi is in Tirchanur, and Alivelu Mangamma is in Mangapattanam. These are 2 different places, right, Prabhu? Or it is in same place?
What I will do, Mataji, next time I'll briefly touch that and then go forward. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, that's all I have. And thanks a lot for so much information about all the temples, Prabhu. When we will visit those temples, we'll recollect all this information. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji, once again for such a beautiful class. Yashmati Mataji, are you there? I don't know why.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, please, Mataji, please close the call.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga. Such a wonderful session. So many things I didn't know, but I knew today about all temples, and lots of pastimes of, and so much story of pure devotees and how the Lord reciprocate them. So it was very nice to hear all the things, and a very, very nice question and answer, whatever Ketida Mataji asked. And so Lord always like a devotee, right? He always sees everything, what they do. So by that, we always should respect the Vaishnavas. So then Lord will please to us. So it's very, very nice class, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
And for your very enlightening class today. We are very, very grateful to you.
Thank you.
And if nobody have any question, and if you have permission, we can end the class.
Next week it is on Friday, not Thursday. So thank you.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji.
Vansha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Grace Jayananda Gauranga Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji, once again.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.